Hello, everyone. This is episode 18 of Here Comes the Pitch, a podcast about pitching story ideas. Today's episode continues our conversation with Tone Rodriguez and Derk Harron as we talk about teaching, creating art, and our admiration for professional comic book artist Tony Parker. I'm your host, Derk Harron, and without further ado, here comes the pitch. So, man, thanks, Tone, for being on the show. Tone Rodriguez. What's really cool is that you teach at the school where I got my degree, the comic sequential art program. And at first it was Tony Parker, and now it's you. And
well, it's funny because the whole thing with Tony Parker is like he's such an amazing artist. When he hit me up about taking over the class, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can handle that. And then I was kind of like going, what kind of kids do they have? And I was freaking out because like I was thinking, it's like, oh, well, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And then I realized that, well, wait a minute, it's like every class is different. And sometimes you'll have people that are,
right.
At this point, I'm putting my hand above my head for people who are listening on the internet and don't have video. And then you have people at this level, and my hand is way lower.
Yeah, it's lower than your goatee.
and so, like, I was so amped and so excited, and even at Jay Photos, I caught him at a show just before I started.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, we're going to do this. And he says, just relax. He's got like one semester in on me, so after one semester he was already like, okay, calm the fuck down. It's like so yeah, but they were great, because again, it's like I even told the kids at one point, because I run the class and we talk, and I do a lot of talking, and again, I said that earlier before we started recording. I can talk all day long. I sometimes probably shouldn't. But I'll just keep going and going and going. But I might not be a good teacher, but I really think I'm an amazing cheerleader.
Well, I think that's like half the job.
But that's the part I'm really good at. Because the thing is like trying to teach someone how to do something you do every day.
Right.
There's things that are kind of easy, but I mean, I've had so many jobs, like I do everything,
right? And
then try to teach them something that I had to learn on my own, and then I'm like, oh wait a minute, I just talked about something, but we forgot about talking about this. So even like in my steps, it's like I'm so eager to just kind of jump into it,
right?
But I realized that I think kids and young adults, I think we learn better and faster when we kind of just throw them in it. It's almost like being at the pool, and going, okay, you're here for swimming lessons. And it's like, all right, here's lesson 1, and you just push them in the pool, just to see what they're going to do. I mean, not that, you don't wait for them to like sink to the bottom and just kind of like just go blah, blah, blah. But, it's like getting in the pool is the first, step to figuring out how to do what they're going to do. And then you can kind of assess their strengths and their weaknesses as they're sinking to the bottom of the pool. But like I said, I swear, it's like I just feel like I'm a better cheerleader than I am a teacher.
Well, my brother, Derk Harron, who's also with us, he's been a teacher
14 years, man.
Yeah. He teaches dance.
Basically, every hip-hop, like every single teacher, though, like what you're saying right now, we're so hard on ourselves. Because that's the thing, it's just like, man, do I really fucking feel qualified to handle all these young minds?
That's the funny thing. It's like, I kind of, after doing it for the last, 3 semesters, I kind of have gotten to the point where I realize if you go in thinking like you totally have this and you totally got it, and you're not opening yourself up to the idea of what it is, because it's like when I took over the position, like I don't have a degree, like I don't have like some piece of paper that says you can do this, and so when they first got a hold of me, I was like, well, I see all this stuff. It says you got to have this BA or
Right.
master's in something, and they're like, well, no, you know, your 20 plus years of actually doing this is what basically says that you can do this.
Right.
And so, okay, I get it, I understand it, but when you don't have something that says that this is something you can do, and here's the proof that I put in my, 20,000 hours or whatever it is they say it is before you can, figure out what it is what you do. I kind of feel like I'm not lying to anybody, but I feel like I'm still unable to do it. Like I can't figure out like why they would let me to do it. But but then you find yourself in it, and then you realize because of like I said, your expertise or your exposure and whatever, like you can. It's just that level of how you're doing it. And I have to set up my class where if I have like the highest ability student and then the lowest, I still have to engage both of them. Because if I go ahead and go, oh, well, this kid over here or this person over here is so much farther ahead, well, I'm going to work at his level. Well, then I leave everyone behind. But I can't work to the lowest person either, because all of a sudden I lose all those people that are like a little farther down the line.
Right.
So what I try to do is, like I said, it's like pushing the kids in the pool. I literally find out what is the worst thing they want to do. Like, what is the one thing that they don't ever want to do? And so I trick them into telling me. And they, because I make up this little, I don't know what you call it, a questionnaire.
Yeah.
And it's got your name, and like I could put like, are you a boy or a girl? Circle one. And then I thought about it. It's like, man, maybe as a teacher I'm not supposed to ask that. So I said, okay, take that out. How old are you? Okay, that sounds wrong too. Okay, take that one. And so it's like, so I'd go, hey, so who are some of your favorite artists?
Right.
And then fill it in. Do you read comic books? What are some of your favorite comics? And so I go ahead and I put all this stuff in there, but. See, and now I'm even telling the story wrong, because the first thing on the thing is when I have it, I turned to everybody, I handed it out, and I said, all right, everybody, I want you to read the questions first and then follow the directions. And so they get them, and as soon as they get them, and so if you read it, it literally asks all these questions, and then somewhere in the middle is like, what is the one thing you love to draw? What is that one thing you love drawing, you like? And then they put it in there. And then the next question where I nail them is like, what is the one thing you hate to draw? And then that's when they put on like hands. Everyone has hands. That's always. But then the last question is, okay, only fill out your name and questions 2 and 6. And by the time they get there, they're all like, And it's like, okay, look, this isn't a math class. This isn't like, social studies. It's like, you're not going to all get fails because you didn't follow directions. That's
right.
Me just fucking around.
Right.
But so I just have a ball because, like, literally what you hear is in the class, because they're all scribble, 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 scribble. And then all of a sudden it's like, thump. Fuck. And then someone's like, what's that? And then they finally get to the question, like, God damn it. And so, like, you literally hear that all the way through the class, and they're all like,
well, if they would have followed directions, they would have known what was going on.
But that's one of the things I was curious about, because I remember the first time somebody told me this little trick thing.
Right.
And it was literally about, look, this class is going to be super easy, but I need you to follow directions.
Right.
And so now that you guys realize that this is like the first thing, it's like we can move on from here. Just follow directions.
Right.
And here are the directions. Just show up, be courteous.
Yeah.
Don't cause problems. Again, easy peasy.
I don't know. I had so much fun with Tony because, like, he took it so seriously.
Yeah.
He's a very serious dude.
But that was the other thing that I was kind of worried about, like with grading and all that.
Yeah.
Because once I saw some of the work that some of the kids were doing, and again, it's funny because the youngest I had in the class was like, I think 17 years old, but like the oldest person I had in one of the classes, I think was like 63. So they're always kids to me. It doesn't matter. It's right. If you're in my class, I'm just going to say a kid. And then at some point, like if I have 125, it's like I'll try to go, sir, kid. But like I always just say kids.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like freaking out with the grading and like trying to figure, because like Tony sent me this syllabus that was fucking insane. Like everything was in here. You will lose points for this. You will gain points from this. If you do this, you will get. And it was amazing because it was so heavy, and I'm going, if you come in, you'll get a point. If you stay till the end of class,
was that something
you get a
that
point.
he created, though?
I have
syllabus,
no
or was
idea.
that like
I
part of
think
the school's?
I think it was him.
Yeah.
Because I turned in a syllabus that was so bare bones, like the simplest and easiest, and like again meat and potatoes versions of what. Because like he even had a thing in there about plagiarism.
Yes.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I look at on Tony's aspect. I think Tony is so intense.
Yeah.
You look at his artwork, even a conversation with him. Like if you ask him like a yes or no question, you get a few other things before you get a positive or negative. And again, it's not like a shitty thing to say that about him. I'm not saying like, well, fuck, man, I can't get an. He's just way intense. And like, hey, so how you doing? Okay, and you know, he starts talking and he kind of has that like way of like kind of like talking to you and whatever. Oh, hey, what's up? How are you? And you're like, calm down, dude. You know, but it's wonderful because sometimes you see people and they are like, you can't read them at all.
Yeah.
Tony lets you know if he's in a foul mood, he lets you know.
Right.
If he's in a great mood, he lets you know. But like, there's just like, when I first met him, it was the first time I came to Phoenix for a show. And I think he just worked on his first comic book. And I remember doing a panel with him at Cactus Con. And he was talking about something.
When was this?
Oh my God, this is at, you know where what is it, the Marriott?
Mesa Convention Center.
Right,
yeah.
the Mesa Convention Center. Yeah. So first year, maybe it was the second year that they had the show, but I can't even remember what year this was. I think I just finished my Snake Plissken book, so I have no idea. But he was so green and like new, but everyone in Phoenix knew him. You know, like the community out here is pretty amazing. And so somehow we ended up on a panel together, and I don't even know what the panel was about. I get to tell the story now, but I mean, at the time I must have known because I was on the panel.
Right.
And then he was so intense. I remember at one point going, man, am I going to get a fucking word in edgewise? Like, it was kind of fucking annoying. And then I'm like, and he just fucking started working comic books. It's like, you know, it's like, what does he fucking know? And it was so amazing. But the thing is, he wasn't shitty. He wasn't disrespectful. He didn't shit on anyone. But, like, his job was to go to the panel and be engaging.
Right.
And entertain and whatever. And he fucking was. And because I'm like this fucking like, well, I've been doing this for 3 months longer than you, you know? Whatever. You know, I was like kind of like going, well, let's keep talking, okay? I'll let you talk. And again, it was funny because at the time I was kind of like, wow, man, he's like totally like doing what he's supposed to do. But because I was like supposed to be on the panel too, I'm like, well, I'm here too. But yeah, he's totally intensity personified. Did you see him this weekend at the show?
Yeah, I went over to his table a couple times just because, you know, he gave me a lot of confidence in my artwork. Okay. He when I started his class, I had kind of stopped doing a lot of art. I went on like a 10-year sabbatical where I was just content. I was working at UPS. I made okay money and I was fine with it. But then like I met a girl who became my wife, but before she was my wife, she just told me that like, I think you have a lot of talent and you should really go back to school, finish school. And then I saw this comic book program and I was like, wow, that's something that I would really go back to school for. Okay. And she thought I was just going to take some like, community college classes or something like that, or maybe transfer over to ASU. But I was like, this is something that I want to do. Yeah. And so I had to kind of change my whole schedule. I ended up having to transfer to a different UPS, and I made it work. It was tough. Tony was tough on me, but like I could tell that there was two of us in the class. There was this other kid too that like was good. And so he was like coaching us both. Like it was just like we were kind of ahead of everybody else, and so thankfully, like he would take time with me. He would take extra time with me, and sometimes like I would spend all this time drawing something, and he would draw over it, just to be like, he's like, I see what you're trying to get at, but this is how it should look.
He'd draw like right on your.
He would draw over my artwork, and I would just be like, and you're just like, huh. I can't believe he did that, but...
This is the thing. It's like, again, for the people at home without cameras, because you can't see the video, because there's no video. When he sat there and said that, yeah, and so Tony took it and started drawing over it. I know you guys saw it. My eyes fucking got really big. I was like, what? And, the funny thing, in a weird way, I get it. Because we would have artists, like teachers, do that, but... They wouldn't draw on the artwork. They'd do an overlay.
Yeah.
And then they would draw. But there's something about the organicness of the comic book pencils.
Yeah.
So I get it. And as long as it didn't bother you after the fact.
No, because I was there to learn.
Totally.
And some people were pretty cocky in the class and very confident.
But some of them didn't have any ability. See, it's like when somebody's like super, super talented and cocky and like they don't listen.
Right.
They're not open. It's the people that are the most dangerous, like if you're teaching like a class like how to disable a bomb. Mm-hmm. Are the ones that are taking the class that go in there and they go, well, I actually already know a little bit about dismantling bombs, and you're like, oh, okay, Junior. They're dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like the ones that like have like that kind of like you say cockiness, it's like I immediately go, oh shit.
Right.
But I'm used to it. Like at this point, I'm totally used to it. But like
get it in every single class. Every class.
It's a part of it.
Yeah.
So do you still have some of the artwork that he drew over?
Yeah.
You didn't mess with it. You left it alone.
Yeah, I just left it alone. Like, because I learned a lot from it.
Gotcha.
Like especially like when talking about anatomy and how he told me, this looks good. This is a pass.
Gotcha.
But this is what you really want to do.
Gotcha.
And he would draw over it. Like, sometimes you'd ask me, like, at first, like, he's like, you mind? But then, like, he could tell that, like, I didn't mind.
Okay, got it.
I just want to learn.
No, totally.
And so he would start.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Start, marking it up or especially when it came to like perspective too. You would be like,
God.
This is
his perspective is like, he's all about
oh my gosh, like he'll draw like so much detail in like in a library or something like that, like a bookshelf, and you're just like, seriously, like look at all that line work.
Oh, by the way, like word balloons are going to cover half of that.
I know,
what I mean?
But he doesn't care.
No, he doesn't, because he totally knows what he wants and he does it and stuff. But the thing is, like, I'm consciously aware of it.
Right.
I'm totally going, okay, I can't spend that much time drawing this because, first and foremost, when someone's reading this comic book on the toilet, they're going to go right past all this. But I also don't want to just shit something out because later on when they're just looking at it on the toilet, I don't want them to see all the shitty stuff that I did my shortcuts on and go, yeah, that looks shitty. Because, I mean, it's bad enough because I really do believe every single one of my comic books has so many fuck-ups and like just stupid shit that I don't want people to see. But the fact of the matter is, that's what it is for the time that I did it. Yeah. It's like it's a time capsule.
Right.
Like if I were to do it all over again, I'd totally do it differently. But it's what it is for that time.
I don't know. I feel like some of the roughest looking comics are my favorite, though.
Oh no, same. I was working for Todd McFarlane for like a hot second, and he was going over like my layouts and stuff. And I remember at one point he said something about the layouts. He says, "Why don't you draw the book like this?" And I'm like, "What?" He says, I like this. And I'm like, but I draw like this. Like, that's just the layouts. He says, yeah, no, I like this. You should do it like this. And I couldn't wrap my brain around it. Like,
right.
It's like, But that's the stuff I just shit out like in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, just to get there. But the one thing I realize is that's where all the power is. That's where all the dynamicness comes from the work in those roughs.
Yeah, it's the gestures.
Oh yeah. It's everything it needs to be, and then what happens is we polish it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you polish it too much,
Right.
and all of a sudden you lose all the power.
Right.
And that's what Todd saw. And then he didn't see it in the final drawings because I was trying to impress him with
Right.
how clean everything looked. And again, if you look at Tony's stuff, this stuff's like super detailed, but like it's got a power to it. Like there's a there's just something kinetic about it.
Right.
Like, if something's moving, you get the feeling that it's moving. And sometimes like like when you're like thinking about like how to draw the Marvel way and you're throwing a punch.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you're drawing the pages and you're like gotta get like this page done today because tomorrow you have to get another one done, and the day after you got to get another one done. When it's all said and done, you look at it, you're like, wow, I just lost all this power. I lost all this like kinetic movement that isn't moving because it's a still drawing.
Right.
But somehow I lost it. But when you look at the roughs, you're like, oh, it's like, yeah, he's right. It's like right there.
Right.
So yeah, so like I get it, but like sometimes like he'll pull me aside and he'll, hey man, let me show you this, and I'll look at it. I'm like, oh fuck, man. It's like, what am I doing? You know, because it's not even just the finished work. It's just the way it looks. Like if the one thing I learned a long time ago is, you know, you use whatever you can use.
Yeah.
Like so, like when I look at his stuff, there's like an ink wash underneath. Then there's like splatter, and then there's white out. And sometimes it's not the prettiest
Right.
on the page.
Right.
But when it transfers to the original art, like the comic book,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah. He hooked up with a really good colorist, and so like they gel really well, and he does definitely bring out some of the rougher areas and that Tony creates, and then like excels with it, you know, because you can do so many types of manipulations in Photoshop or Illustrator or wherever you're working when doing your colors, and but that's what I love about Tony's work too, is like all of his grayscale stuff too. Yeah. Like I like his crisp line work too, but I kind of like his shading.
I love looking at his commissions.
Yeah.
Like
he puts so much time into it.
So much amazing work.
Yeah.
You know what? This is going to be an amazing episode of the Tony Parker Appreciation.
I know. I know. We're kind of gushing a little bit, but
if we don't get at least one remark from Tony Parker, like on Twitter, or
I'm gonna send this one too.
Well, how did you get the spot from Tony?
Yeah.
But what made him want to step away from it?
Tony had to move. He was moving up to
Oregon.
Yeah. His wife had just taken on an amazing job, and he finished out the semester, and then I guess they turned to him and said, hey, so you have any suggestions? And he put me in there. I'm sure he probably had like 5 or 6 other people.
It's good you guys did that panel together.
To come back around, yeah.
I think it really just turned out to be the person who had the least going on that was willing to do it.
Dude, I love your run of Blood and Dust that you just recently did, too. So
it's funny because I love that book when I wasn't working on it.
Yeah, the first volume
weren't working on
it.
Well, did you see, I don't know if you saw the first artist?
That's what I'm saying. That when I wasn't working on it, I saw that book.
they actually changed the artist.
No, that was Rudy Vasquez.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, I know the whole history of
okay.
Rudy is an artist from El Paso. I think he was in L.A. for a little while, but he's in El Paso. And he is somebody that one of my friends kind of, I don't want to say, I hate the word discovered, but he'd met him at a show or met him online, and they were doing some stuff.
All right.
And just from looking at what Rudy was doing from when we were doing the stuff, you could tell that he was like, he's going to be amazing. He's going to break out. Like, he's going to be fucking huge. And then they they did like some short stories. I think one of the not a short story, but a preview story turned up in the back of one of my UTF comic books, the Ended Task Force book.
Okay.
And then we did that with Ape Entertainment.
Oh, okay.
And so he did something there, and then was supposed to just break out and be huge. And he's just one of those guys that is super talented, totally able to do the work, but he falls in this category of artists that I don't have a name for. I got to figure out what this name is. But he falls in this category of artists that are married or have kids, obligations, and it's hard for these artists to find time to devote to doing their art and then getting it in front of people because they have so many people that rely on them. Like I said, their kids, their wives, their family, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of those guys. I think he's got at least one kid that I know of because I remember we talked about it when we were talking. And I don't know what his situation was at the last time I spoke with him.
Oh.
But at the time, you could just tell, totally capable, if he could somehow find the time to get the work done. And as time goes by, and even now, you just look back and you go, can't find the time. He does pieces.
Yeah.
You can see it online. Like, I don't know if it's on, he's got an Instagram. I'm sure it's an Instagram account because I
Right.
see it every so often. Like, he works for the city of El Paso, or he does something for the city of El Paso.
Okay.
And so I see his work, and again, I think he's definitely one of those guys who, if could have found that time, could have found a way, he'd be huge right now.
Yeah.
Because he's super talented. And then, so I saw that. Getting back to Blood and Dust. And then I saw the original book, the 3-issue miniseries that they did.
Uh-huh.
And when I first met Mike, I want to say I met him out here. I know I met him before I moved out here, but I met him physically here that I remember, and we caught up and whatever, and we talked about the book, and I saw it, and he handed it to me, and I remember going over it. And I must have made a comment like, holy shit, like, this is a brilliant idea. Because the idea of the book was the first American vampire. And, you know, and since he came up with this concept, like, we've been seeing so many people doing this.
Right.
I don't know the names of the books. I don't
Well,
know who writes them. I have no idea.
Yeah, there's American Vampire
Yeah,
that Scott Snyder does.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like Blood and Dust more because it almost feels like if like Clint Eastwood turned into like a vampire was a vampire.
That was the idea, yeah. Especially
for a while.
When he came on, I think he said something about like if we were making a movie, then it would be Clint Eastwood. And so like in my head, it was like, okay, Clint Eastwood. And now I'm not one of those guys that does likenesses. I don't want to like do like likenesses and go, okay, well let me get my. But I did my best, me kind of doing a Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
If I had to do it over and over and over again, but like once I started working on the book myself, I didn't. I guess like it as much. It's like I love other people's books. Like when it's other people's books and like I get to see it and finish. And I don't see any of the sorrow and the sweat that went into making it. You know, I just see the book. The staples are where they're supposed to be. The ads where it's supposed to
right.
be. If it's got a Marvel logo or a DC logo, that's exactly where it needs to be. But you know what I mean? It's like, so when you work on a book,
yeah.
and even you're an artist, you know this. It's like there's good days, and there are so many bad days.
Right.
And so like even that book, I look at it now, and as much as I have people coming up to me telling me how much they really enjoy it, and I just think of all the shitty days I had doing it, and it's such a weird thing because I'm very happy with how it turned out. I hope Mike is super happy with how it turned out. But the funny thing is, I've told Mike over and over and over again, as effed up as that book is, the stuff you guys don't even see is more effed up. And so I keep telling Mike, you got to put this in prose. You have to take this book, this script that you wrote me, and you need to make it a prose book so that all of your sick little fucking fans can read all the sick little fucking things that are rolling around in your head, because he's damaged. He's sincerely damaged, and I'm the only one.
He was a really nice guy when I met him.
He's delightful, but he's damaged in the worst way. He'll be the first one to tell you that. You put him on here next week, he'll sit there. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm fucked up. Yeah. Because there was some things in the script that I just look at and just reading it to draw it. I'm just like, oh god damn, just so vile and gross and just all right, well, let me try to give him this. And so, there's a fight scene at the very end where I think what the one of the characters shoves a shotgun in a guy's mouth and then blows it out his ass. It's just how he wrote it in the script. It was just so fucking ridiculous, but disgusting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? These fucking monsters that are your fans, they're gonna love this.
Right.
But you have to put it in a way that they can.
I want to see that picture right now.
Oh,
too.
it's foul. It's so foul. But
what a job, man.
Yeah. Well,
God,
but that's
the
thing.
coolest thing, though. You've anybody who's a teacher who does any type of art. I think nice guy, man. I've just met you, but I can just tell you're a humble dude.
Oh, you're being sweet.
Because you appreciate art.
Well, I appreciate what I like.
Right.
And I despise what I hate. But if I hate something so vehemently, I generally won't let anybody know.
Suffer in silence.
Well, it's like politics, It's like we can sit here and start talking about politics.
It's not.
No, that's why I don't do it. Because when you do it, you immediately alienate half of your audience.
Right.
So if I sit there and I decided to wave my flag one way or the other, depending on how I feel today, if I go ahead and put it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, I'm going to get half of my people, the vocal half, going, right on, brother, you go ahead and do it. And then I'll get the other vocal shitty people who don't agree with me telling me to fuck off and die. So I don't want to do that ever. And not only that, I really don't have a strong political opinion one way or the other. I really don't. I kind of feel like I'm not smart enough to draw that line in the sand and go, this is what I stand for. It's because I hate to even say this. I'm not wishy-washy, but I'm always playing devil's advocate in my head. When I see something shitty, I try to think to myself, okay, that looks shitty, but this might be why. Or if something happens to somebody, I try to kind of put myself in their position. And I kind of I don't do it all the time, and I don't do it with the best results. But I hate the idea that some people are so adamant and they draw that line and they say, this is what it is, and F all of you who don't believe it. Well, because if I hate something today, tomorrow I might be okay with it a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying killing babies and, smashing puppies is a good thing to do, but I'm not saying tomorrow I'm going to think that's okay. I'm just saying, if somebody picks something and, today they feel this way, they might feel less that way tomorrow.
100%.
So, yeah.
Well,
that was a bad analogy to puppies and babies, though.
No, but I like what you were getting at, that, someone that is just fixated on that this is the truth, that this is where the truth lies, and anybody else's opinion otherwise is completely false.
But keep in mind, you just said the world's greatest thing. The truth lies.
Yeah.
by no stretch of the imagination, that is the truest thing anyone can ever think about when they start shitting on somebody.
Right.
Whatever their truth is, somebody else is going to have the total opposite take on it. And the fact of the matter is, there's not his side of the story and her side of the story.
Right.
There's his side of the story, there's her side of the story, and somewhere, not always in the middle, it might be a little bit off to her side, it might be a little bit more, somewhere is the truth.
Right.
So you have to like sit there and put yourself in other people's shoes for a little while, lest you find yourself in that shitty person's position where all of a sudden everyone's just dumping, shit on your doorstep. Because the last thing I want to do, like again, you go online, you see all these people, one comic book guy says this, and everybody starts calling him a Nazi or doing this or whatever. It's like, man, I don't know that cat. It's like, is he a bad person? I don't know.
Yeah.
I judge people on how I see them in public.
Face to face.
Yeah. Because, like, if I see somebody doing something shitty in front of me, then I'm thinking to myself, he did that in front of me. What's he doing behind everyone's back? And I'm not, like, someone who's, like, out there, like, let me write this down and, keep my little notes. It's like, I just see people doing some shitty stuff, and I'm just like, all right, and like I said, if you did that in front of me, what are you hiding? Like what kind of crazy shit are you doing behind your back? So like, dude, you meet these people all the time at shows, and like some people are wonderful. Oh my god, I can't tell you, I love going to shows, but it's also like that double-edged sword. Sometimes you go to shows and you'll like have like 100 great experiences, and then you'll have like 2 shitty ones, and you forget all about all those great relationships you just met or experiences you just had, and you fixate on these 2 shitty ones. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that sometimes, people are...
It's the same thing going back to you teaching, too. Because you could have, like, a class of, like, 40 students and have 38, like, really good kids. I mean, the ability levels will be up and down. But then you'll have those 2 students that you're just like...
it's funny.
I gotta go to class, and that person's gonna be there. Fuck.
I had one student last semester who I thought to myself after the first day of class, he's gonna be the reason why I lose my shit and kick someone's ass. After the first class. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, and I'm not like a physical, like I'm gonna like get in people's, like I've always been a big guy, but I've never like imposed my will. Like I've had a few instances where I've gotten into people's shit, but I'm not like somebody who like wants to act like a tough guy all the time and like go out there because I'm an old man now. But I remember the kid, and right from the minute he got there was like a little bit of like an obstinate, streak in him where like he'd say something and then he'd kind of say something funny back, but it wasn't funny. It was kind of shitty, and you're kind of like, this is going to be the one. But by the end of the class, he actually turned out to be a very nice kid. We had a pretty good time. I the thing is, because I'm old. Again, we talked about this before. I'm 50 years old. I'm so far away from me being a kid and so much closer to what eventually will be death. Like, because when you're a kid, it's like you have your entire life and, you're just a kid and that's all you know. But now when you get to this point, you've seen so much, you've done so much, and now you're like, God damn. It's like, is this the kind of shit I have to deal with? Because like when I was a kid, we didn't have any of this ADHD, DDB stuff.
Right?
We didn't have any of that. We just had, is this kid, he's a fucking asshole. It's like, this kid is a pain in the ass.
Can't get his shit straight.
Yeah. So, okay, just leave him alone. He's going to go play with fucking Play-Doh or whatever. But, like now we have all these different things. And again, I totally get it. I understand. One of the kids in my last class clearly had an ADD issue. And maybe, what's the other one? Autistic?
Autistic,
like slightly autistic. Mm-hmm. But man, he did some amazing stuff. Very cartoony.
Yeah.
But and he worked. Always was doing something.
When they have those good days, they have the ability to like click and focus on a level
never
that
had a problem with him.
People
never had a problem with him. He was great. But this other kid that I told you about that showed up that immediately made me go, God damn it. He was just one of those guys, just couldn't focus and he wasn't the best student. But like I said, by the time we were done with the class, he was fine.
Right.
But like this other kid, man, again, talk about like, here's the one that is going to be the problem, and here's another one with the same kind of problem. Not a problem at all. Delightful.
Yeah. Well, I think that what this show is all about is that we can play around with stories, and that's why I like when I pitch a story, like it's not set in stone. This is just like an idea, and that's what I really like, getting feedback from my guests and seeing where it goes.